Chapter 30, Illumination. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. I am the ego, which is seated in the hearts of all beings. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all existing things. The Bhagavad Gita. Pupils are asking continually for some formula, some prescribed practical thing to do to advance their spiritual evolution, complaining that they have read and studied all forms of philosophy and are now ready for something definite. Because of this widespread demand, they have sprung up on every hand those who are professing to give practical directions that shall lead this pupil into illumination and give him miraculous power. On the other hand, an equally large number are writing that they have studied various systems, spent large sums of money for advanced teachings, received the lessons of the intersection of many organizations, have passed through many mysterious degrees of various societies with high-sounding titles and yet found their hunger unappeased. The net result being a mass of so-called formulas and a greater amount of discouragement. Others turn to the wisdom religion, supposing it has to do with the development of psychic power and the performance of magical rites. But in truth it has primarily to do with the development of the Christ force within and the showing of it forth in the life. So-called magic is dual. If it is the result of the recognition and outward manifestation of the Christ within it, is white magic and right. If the result of seeking for power or personal stature, it becomes black magic and evil. Therefore, to all these classes of seekers, as well as to many other hungry hearts, we bring the old message. I, the Christ within, am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. What is it that all these are seeking? It is so-called illumination, yet few there be who have any realization of what this means. We have considered various phases of this illumination in the previous lessons, and we will try herein to show what the real illumination is and how it is attained. Illumination is the perfect blending of the self with the divine or the Christ power, so that divine wisdom can guide every thought and act of the mortal man, and the light of divinity can shed its radiance over the entire life. When it is remembered that the Bible story of the Christ is the most complete and all-embracing narrative ever written, not of the man Jesus or even of God, but a synthetic picture of the Son of God, the emanation from the Father, the Christ force in humanity or the Word made flesh, which symbolizes the various steps each soul must pass through and conquer. It becomes quite plain that this, as union with the divine takes place, the life of the disciple must manifest truth. The whole mysterious transformation must be a growth similar to the gradual assimilation of the life-giving constituents of the sun by the plant, until the full fruition or the indwelling of the life force is accomplished in the fruit. When we grasp this thought firmly, we will understand that we must and shall do works of our Father in exact proportion to our ability to make the correlation with Him, just as the plant does the works of its father the sun, just as the blade, then the ear, then the full corn in the ear. Therefore, there can be no rigid observance laid down for the attainment of perfection, any more than there can be for the perfection of every individual plant. There can, however, be practices which develop the will, awaken the intuition, and stimulate aspiration, and there are environments which will foster spiritual growth. Within the ranks of any spiritual movements, these teachings satisfy your soul hunger, but these have been fully covered in other lessons. To the average 20th century student, the effort to conquer himself is quite sufficient to develop his will, and the only stimulant necessary is a burning, ardent seeking for the realization of the Christ love. Illumination, however, can never be attained through the mere reading of lessons or the observance of rules. It must be the result of a vital force that comes into each life. The gardener may prepare the soil, tend and water a plant, but the plant itself must assimilate the light and force of the sun and literally transmute them into living tissue within its body, ere the blossom or the fruit can appear. So it is with the illumination that each soul is seeking. Only the Christ force, not only talked about and in a sense realized, but literally absorbed and built into living tissue in the flesh, the mind and the spirit, can bring about this mystical union. It is the Christ and the Christ alone who is the way, the truth, and the life. As certain plants gather from the sun force the power to produce poison, so can man, by using for his own personal ends the godlike powers with which he can identify himself, produce evil. We do not create power. We only identify our consciousness with the divine, which is all power, just as we might attach a wire to a dynamo and obtain power. Of the divine self alone it is said, all power is given unto thee in heaven and earth. This is literally true. All power is ours when we identify ourselves with the divine, and the synthesis of this power is the ability to merge the personality into the divine or become one with the Father through the Christ. This gives all power because having accomplished this, all things are possible. As man is endowed with free will, he can choose to take either the right-hand path, merge the human into the divine, and use his God power to do the work of his Father in heaven, or he can graft his God power onto the stock of personality, and by making the intellect alone his guiding star, deliberately forswear his Father in heaven and become a child of evil, or the devil, and do the works of his father the devil, the concentrated force of man's wrong thoughts, acts, and creations, the perverted reflection of the good law, the Lord on earth. By refusing to let the light of the divine penetrate farther than the intellect, he closes the door of his heart and allows the light to illumine only his human brain, which, without the guidance of the heart, permits evil to manifest, especially intellectual and spiritual pride, which are the most subtle and insidious of all evils. Therefore, to teach mankind how to unfold inner faculties and how to use their power for personal ends would be quite as reprehensible as for a gardener to propagate in a garden devoted to raising food for man some poisonous vine which the gardener knew the very richness of the soil, the sunshine, and the cultivation would cause to grow, and finally either destroy the food or impregnate it with poison. This is why the inner teaching of the sacred mysteries are given only to a few. It is no being who gives. It is the blossom of the soul which opens and receives the light of illumination, as the rose unfolds its petal to the light of the sun. If you do not receive this light, know well that the blossoming time has not arrived for you. Had it arrived, no one could withhold the light from you. When the divine mystery of the indwelling of the Christ has taken place in the soul, and the disciple has begun to realize in a vital living way that the overshadowing of his divine self is a real blending or indwelling, then the works of his Father will unfold within him, just as the blade, the ear, and the full corn in the ear unfold in the plant. Then, and then only, is he ready for the inner teaching, for he must be trained to put forth his blossoms in a manner best for humanity. Each step gained must not only show in the life, but the powers that go with that step must also manifest. If we control one selfish trait, which before held us captive, we may know that we have taken a real step upward. And the first and greatest of all magical powers to be attained by the pupil is the magical power of controlling himself, of day after day mastering the little things, with no heroics, perhaps with no one to commend him or realize that he has taken any effort, yet still controlling his little temper, his little impatiences, little acts of selfishness, his tendency to criticize and all the little trifling things he knows are wrong, but which seem too petty to be worth mentioning. Let no pupil ask for special lessons until these little things are in a measure conquered, for the building of these little lessons into his life is the most practical formula that can be given him. And if there is anyone who has thus assimilated the Christ and grown to live the Christ life, who has gained the power of looking at the self, who has fulfilled the injunction, know thyself, yet who says he still lacks illumination, let him know well that there is some hidden corner in his heart or life into which the light is not able to penetrate, some closed door which he refuses to open. To him we would say, look deeper and meditate in the silence and pray for a knowledge of thyself. At the same time, go forth and help to bring the light to some other soul, for in so doing, some part of your nature you'll find that which keeps out the full radiance of the Christ light. Let him learn to look intelligently into the hearts of men. Regard most earnestly your own heart, for through your own heart comes the one light which can illumine life and make it clear to your eyes. Occult formulas are more apt to emphasize self-satisfaction and self-righteousness than to help toward self-mastery. John the Baptist had been educated in all the law of the mysteries, had lived apart from the world in the caves of the wilderness, had fed on locusts and wild honey, and had spent his life following out the most rigid formularies of the Essenes. Yet Jesus said, Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. This means that the very humblest person who is correlated with the Christ within, which is entering the kingdom of heaven, is greater than even a great intellectual teacher such as John the Baptist. Both intellectual development and heart development are necessary, but if the heart is first developed and a conscious union made with the Christ within, all things are revealed unto you. This is, as it were, the shortcut to mastery. It is a singular fact that none of the great teachers, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, etc., ever wrote a word or were in their day looked upon as great intellectual teachers. But the example of their life lives in the world today and can never die, because they made this divine correlation, literally manifesting God in the flesh. It is neither the words you speak nor the routine of your life that affects the world, but something more. It is the power of that which is the way, the truth, and the life. In other words, both that which you teach and the example of your life must prove conclusively that it is the Christ within you that worketh through you both to will and to do. It must not be a mere lip service. It must be so true and so convincing that it will radiate from you rather than be a garment assumed before the world or a mere intellectual cloak that blinds your own eyes. For the Christ within you must be the truth as well as the way and the life. If there is any doubt left in regard to the path we point out to reach its attainment, we will briefly recapitulate. Think only constructively if you desire spiritual growth. Do cheerfully and well the duty that lies nearest. Conquer the little faults as they show themselves. Never let a day pass without its period of self-examination, meditation, and communion with the divine. Do unto others as you would that others should do unto you. Learn to love in its truest and grandest sense. Do not criticize others, even though your criticism seems just, for to do so you must dwell mentally in the conditions you criticize. Be not afraid to face and recognize your own faults. At the same time, be not discouraged. Have perfect confidence in your power ultimately to conquer through the Christ within. For the voice of the Christ declares, Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. The following are the requirements given by a great teacher to those who seek illumination. 1. Behold the truth before you. 2. A clean life. 3. An open mind. 4. A pure heart. 5. An eager intellect. 6. An unveiled spiritual perception. 7. A brotherliness for one's co-disciple. 8. A readiness to give and receive instruction. 9. A loyal sense of duty to the teacher. 10. A willing obedience to the behest of truth once we have placed our confidence in and believe the teacher to be in possession of it. 11. A courageous endurance of personal injustice. 12. A brave declaration of principle. 13. A valiant defense of those who are unjustly attacked. 14. A constant eye to the ideal of human progression and perfection which the secret science depicts. 15. These are the golden stairs up the steps of which the learner may climb to the temple of divine wisdom. All things are possible unto him who believes.